Put your sunglasses on, let the sun shine in. Welcome to this video podcast by Trinasolar. I'm Beth Cohen, your host. When you were a kid, you were probably asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, for me it was clear. I wanted to be the host of A Chat in the Sun. But then you grow up and that question comes back as you do an interview for a job when they ask, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Excuse me, I didn't know I had to bring a crystal ball. These are the questions that make us think about the future, facing the unknown with a mix of nerves and excitement about what we hope to achieve. But speaking of the future, let's talk about something we can predict. What is the future of solar energy? If you ask me, I'd say it's looking very bright. So you might want to wear sunglasses all year round. Over the past few years, solar energy has been on an unstoppable upward trajectory. It's quickly emerged as one of the most viable and sustainable solutions to power our lives, our homes, and our future. Today, thanks to the innovation of solar panels, trackers, and energy storage systems, we can turn sunlight into electricity. It's like magic. The predictions about what the future holds for solar energy are truly exciting. In the coming years, solar power could be the dominant energy source in many parts of the world. Advances in technology are expected to make solar panels more efficient and accessible, and energy storage solutions more reliable and scalable, allowing even the most remote areas to harness this clean energy. Furthermore, with the integration of artificial intelligence and advanced storage, we could see smart grids that optimize the use of solar energy, reducing waste and costs. Can you imagine a future where every home is energy self-sufficient, powered entirely by the sun? It's not science fiction, it's a reality that is just around the corner. Solar power could be everywhere, powering everything from our smallest devices to entire cities, making those futuristic visions of a self-sufficient, ultra-connected world much closer than we think. But what can we expect from solar energy in the coming years? To answer this question and many more, we have with us today the true experts, the ones who are innovating and developing the technologies shaping our energy future. They aren't just imagining what the future will be like in 5 years, they're creating it. And alongside them, we have some very special guests who we'll introduce in just a moment. We've got an exciting format that will follow in every episode. First, we'll kick things off with Sunrise, an introduction to the topic and our expert guests. Then, we'll move to First Light, a quick round of rapid-fire questions in true ping-pong style. The heart of our conversation comes during noon, where we have in-depth discussions with our experts. Next up is Golden Hour, where we dive into some interesting questions from industry pros, collected during Intersolar Brazil, all about the future of solar energy. And finally, we close with Sunset, wrapping up the episode and giving you a preview of what's coming next. Hi, I'm Beth Cohen, and this is A Chat in the Sun, a video podcast by Trinasolar. Let's begin. Welcome to our Sunrise. Today we're kicking things off with a deep dive into a fascinating topic, the future of solar energy. But before we jump in, let's introduce the experts who'll be joining us today. They're here to share their unique insights and experiences on where solar energy is headed. Joining us from the Trina family, we have Álvaro García-Maltrás, President of Trinasolar Latin America and the Caribbean, who's been instrumental in positioning the company as a key player in the region. Pia-Alina Lang, Director of EU Public Affairs and Policy at Trinasolar, a leading voice in European solar and circular economy policy. Gonzalo Balsega, Head of Tracker Business EU-MU at Trina Tracker, bringing over a decade of expertise in solar trackers across Europe and the US. And today, we are honored to introduce our special guest, David Fuertes, Associate Professor at the Universidad Politécnica de Madrid and Academic Coordinator of the Master in PV Solar Energy. David brings a wealth of knowledge in photovoltaic device technology, and we're particularly excited to talk about Trinasolar's collaboration with UPM's Institute of Solar Energy, Instituto Solar. This partnership aims to advance solar technology by enhancing panel efficiency, improving the resilience of solar trackers, and optimizing energy management strategies. Let's get started. Now it's time for First Light, where we mix a little fun with some quick-fire questions. we're going to challenge one of our guests to a game of ping pong while tossing out rapid questions to get to know him a little bit better. Today, the lucky opponent is Álvaro. Let's see how quickly he can think on his feet. Okay, Álvaro, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, shoes off. Ready for action?
Go.
Here we go. What's your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
To be honest with you, is to have a beer. Yeah, I mean, usually I like to say hello to my kids after they back from school and to my wife, and then have a cold beer.
Ooh.
Good one.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be?
Sorry. Only one. I think maybe I would like to meet interesting people such as Albert Einstein or Freddie Mercury, something like that. So one of those two, I would say.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
I would say both. When I was younger, certainly night, and now a little bit more morning. But I can defend myself in both environments, I would say.
Multi-talented.
Now, also, as I travel quite often, and there are big jet lags that I have to face, sometimes I don't really know if it's night or day, so I have to defend myself in both environments, yes.
What's one thing that you've always wanted to learn? And don't say ping pong.
Something I always wanted to learn is Chinese.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I started working in China 17 years ago, and I said, okay, it's a good opportunity to learn Chinese. Then I thought, wow, it's so difficult. It's going to take me so many years to learn it correctly, so let's do other things. And now, after 17 years, I cannot regret it more.
Mountains or beach?
Sorry, both. Has to be both. In my summer holidays, I always take 1 week at the beach, 1 week on the mountain.
If you weren't working in solar energy, what other career would you have pursued?
Probably something related to renewable energy. Actually, when I joined solar energy, I came from wind energy. So I like that sector. Apart from that, of course, probably I will be a football star.
Of course. What's your hidden talent?
I don't hide a lot of things. Well, I'm a piano player. I used to be.
Oh.
Don't practice so much later in the last years, but I was quite good when I was younger, and I always liked music a lot. I also had my rock and roll band, but
Really?
that was so long ago.
What did you play?
I played the keyboard. Sorry.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Probably, if you don't have something good to say about somebody, it's better not to say anything at all.
I'll be aware of your silences.
Oh, I talk too much.
Okay, describe yourself in 3 words.
In 3 words, yeah. I would say I think I am passionate. I think also reasonable. I would guess, and social.
Nice shot. Okay. And finally, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live?
In Madrid. I like my city.
Oh.
Sorry. Finger shot.
I think if I could describe myself in 3 words, it would be not good at ping pong. That's 5.
Not true. Come on.
You're a great opponent. Put it there.
Pleasure.
Sorry for destroying the national sport. Thank you so much for joining us in our First Light Quickfire Ping Pong Challenge with Álvaro. Welcome to Noon, the heart of our podcast. In this segment, we'll take a deeper dive into the future of solar energy with our expert guests. We'll explore the latest innovations, upcoming trends, and the challenges that we face as we push solar technology forward. So let's go for it. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Hey,
Hello.
Thank you.
Hello.
This is David, Alina. Hello, Álvaro. Hello, Gonzalo.
Hello.
Hello.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, I'd like to start with a very pressing question, which is, what are the most promising technological advancements in solar energy that are shaping the future of the industry and Trinasolar particularly as a company?
Okay, let me take that one, Beth. Well, as you know, Trinasolar's core business is to manufacture equipment related to solar energy, mainly modules, trackers, and batteries. If we consider this separately, well, I will start talking about modules, which is actually Trina's core business and what has enabled the company to grow so much in the last 25 years. The reality is that what we have experienced in the last years has been a huge evolvement of the technology and an incredible cost decrease. We have to consider that 20 years ago, solar modules had a power output of around 150 watts, and their cost was more than $4 per watt. Today, you buy high efficiency modules with power output up to 700 watts with a really low cost of around $0.10 per watt. So we're talking about a product that has increased its power output and its efficiency more than 3 times, and the cost is 40 to 50 times lower than 15, 20 years ago. You know, I've spent some time thinking about what other product has experienced such a cost decrease and characteristics improvement, and it's difficult for me to find any. I don't know if any of you guys can think of something similar, something that could compare.
Maybe trackers.
Maybe trackers.
So, trackers. We were chatting like 30 minutes ago, Álvaro, that I think in 2007 was our first year in photovoltaic. I remember we were designing trackers that were completely different than the ones. Now, for just 10% of the original cost, we can get such a much more advanced technology with higher output, combining all the technologies. So in 2007, we were using dual axis trackers. They were trackers just tracking the sun in both angles, okay? And now we have some kind of technology which is in between a fixed and dual axis tracking system, which is the single axis trackers, that although they are getting a little bit lower yield, so you have a capex, which is a cost decrease, as I said before, is 10%, what they were talking about like in 2008 or 2007.
Yeah, incredible. So, no, I just wanted to mention, coming back to that huge cost reduction. I think all the evolution that has been achieved on that part of the technology, I think has been nearly already achieved. What we're focusing now is not to reduce cost further. Honestly, it's very limited space for that. What we're focused on now is to increase furthermore the efficiencies and to implement and deploy technology that allows to obtain additional energy from these products. And that's why we have seen in the last years this evolution of the products, first making modules being able to generate electricity from both sides instead from only one side, also improving the encapsulation materials, enabling the natural degradation of the modules to be reduced. So that's why I would say we're focusing now in terms of technology development on the module side to further increase their efficiencies. Today, a module with efficiencies of lower than 23% are not so interesting. And actually, this was quite a high number to be achieved a few years ago. So that's where we are focusing our efforts. On the battery side, well, I think we're in a completely different stage. No? It's like we do have to face that severe cost reduction curve now to make that technology available to more people. And also there are several different paths that can be followed to also optimize the product itself. What we're working on mainly is based on lithium ion. I think this is the most common technology. We see still space for improvement in that technology. The more we test our own cells, we see that the efficiency curves are improving as we optimize our manufacturing processes. And we do believe that there are other different technologies that can be implemented in the battery cell manufacturing, but we also have to consider that it's a relatively more complex part of the business or part of the energy generation system than module. I mean, it's critical to create an environment in which the PCS and the energy management system communicate perfectly well with the batteries, and everything works together very efficiently. And this is where I think we are also focusing on efforts today. I think on the tracker side, I think Gonzalo can probably provide a better view than myself.
Yeah, well, I don't know. So I think just to answer your question, so we have to move back, going backwards to 2008. Globally in 2008, I think they were installed nearly 6 gigawatts of solar plants, with 80% of them here in Europe, okay? Now in 2024, I guess we will be nearly 600 gigawatts, so means 100 times more. More than 50% will come from China, okay? Then Europe, then US, and if I'm not wrong, Latam, I guess. So it means tracker business is some kind of challenging. It presents really a challenge, because now we are not just focusing on Europe, we are focusing globally. And but this represents really for us a big opportunity. So the beauty of Trina is that we have different regions in China, in APAC, in Europe, of course, in EMEA, in LATAM, in the US. So we can offer some kind of tailor-made product and services. And I think this is something like going from global in the past to local. And this is really important, okay, to understand what we are doing. So we are a kind of company that we have all the range of products. We have trackers, that they are structures that they are tracking the sun. One portrait, those they have really the lowest price, so they are really competitive. They can withstand really high wind and snow pressures. Then we have as well trackers 2 in portrait, that they are especially or mainly used in Europe for challenging locations with really difficult soils, and then you have to design really expensive foundations, and those trackers that they follow the sun, they have less foundation than the one portrait trackers, okay? And even by having the same area, you can fit more power, and this is really important. But also, something which is also peculiar and gives an added value from Trina is that we also have fixed structures. So it means that if we want to cover areas in Eastern Europe or even in the UK where we don't have a lot of direct radiation, so we can place such structures to get the maximum output.
No, I was going to say, so we have much more efficient tracking systems,
Yeah.
and we also have the high efficiency solar modules, and then improved energy storage, so it's really just progressing on and on from there. And how would you say that the integration of smart technologies is really helping with this efficiency?
Yeah, of course. This is, I would say, first product, then service, but I will go directly to this question. So this is a question also to increase the yield of the installation. So you have a tracker, so you have to increase the energy. And we are working on a super track technology, that it means that we have a control that could get up to 8% more yield than our competitors. And this is something that we are working in 2 main different aspects. First is what is called backtracking. Okay, backtracking is you imagine the sun, you have the trackers, and then in the morning or in the afternoon when the sun is really low, it can shade the trackers. Okay, so we know the height of the neighbor trackers, so it means they can move and avoiding this shade. So we go one step forward. It means that we have this technology, and Álvaro knows better than me that many modules they are half cutted. So it means that even we can shade the half of the module and keep tracking let's say the tracker. So we can get more yield. And the second aspect is it's not the same if we are installing in Chile, in Brazil, or maybe in the UK, where we also install trackers.
Yes, and they would get a lot of use in the UK because, of course, the sun comes up later,
and then
it sets earlier,
so
often hidden behind the clouds.
And that's exactly the thing. So we have an algorithm that can detect whether we have more diffuse irradiance or direct. Diffuse means clouds. So it means we don't need to track the sun if we have clouds. So we can know exactly by using some sensors. It makes sense more to keep quiet the tracker, let's say, and stop tracking the sun and getting even more yield. And this is some kind of high technology. And we can get up to 8% more yield. Yeah.
But if I just may chime in here, I mean, we are talking about energy, right? And we are talking about solar energy. And solar energy some years ago, played a rather little role in the energy mix. Today, solar is mainstream, right? And you have to have these solutions in order to actually, be a functioning grid, right? You have to ensure that you power the grids at all times. And that's why it's so important to have these different solutions, and I would say very advanced solutions.
Yeah, and another thing, I think it's really important to have this portfolio of products that can fit to every market and what the customer needs. Okay, this is not that the customer has to select my product. No, we have to select the best option to have the highest yield and the less capex and opex possible. So this is a question of this is an investment, actually.
Yes. So the investment in the intelligent control unit in order to therefore later on save money and also guarantee supply to the grid.
That's right.
Exactly. And those smart technologies will help on the OPEX part, as Gonzalo mentioned, of course. It can help you to make, to plan your maintenance, to collect data that can optimize the moment in which any action that you have to take on the PV plant will be minimized in terms of yield affection, and especially on the battery and the storage part. I would say that we really need to add IoT technology to that, because the scope of support that this technology can bring certainly goes beyond just storing energy. One of its main applications is to support the grid also. In order to do that, you have to act really quickly, and you have to know exactly what the grid needs. And those smart technologies are going to be the ones that are going to facilitate in a great manner how to do this.
And speaking of smart technology, what can you tell me about Trina Smart Cloud and data-driven optimization?
This is what Álvaro is saying. So at the end of the day, what we do is we collect the data. We have the alarms, all the sensors that the trackers they have, and we can predict what is going to be the best maintenance. Even we can cross with artificial intelligence to predict a better maintenance. Even by getting this data, we can even think about designing better trackers, okay, to have the lowest OPEX as possible. And even with this artificial intelligence, because we have a bunch of data coming from old calculations, we can even make new trackers that they adapt to any market and situation. So this is something that we are doing.
Some very interesting advancements there. And I'd like to move on to my next question, which is what are the major challenges currently facing the solar energy sector, and what strategies are currently being developed to overcome them?
May I jump in?
Please do.
Okay, well, I would start saying that photovoltaics is a marvelous technology. And for photovoltaics to make a real impact, I think there are three conditions which must happen simultaneously. One is reliability, and this was already proven since the very beginning in the first space applications back in the 50s, in the former century. Photovoltaics is a reliable technology. The second condition is to be cost effective. And as Álvaro mentioned just a few minutes ago, this has already happened. So photovoltaics is probably one of the cheapest ways of generating electricity nowadays, at least at several places geographically in the world. And the third condition is to have the capacity of a massive deployment. And if you look around, there are not many other alternatives. So we really have to rely on the capability of photovoltaics to make such big jump into installed capacity to really have an impact in the energy transition and in order to meet our targets regarding climate concerns. And in that sense, I think we are facing a very interesting phase right now. So we are about to, once we have proven these three conditions are met, this is the starting point to really make the difference. So I think we will be looking at very big changes at nearly all levels, starting from the photovoltaic device technology, so how the solar cells are fabricated and how they work, but also in other aspects already mentioned, Álvaro and Gonzalo, for instance, which is the data management, the anticipation of failures, the prevention actions. So all these huge volume of data can be used in a very useful way, okay? And I think that would be another revolution associated to the deployment of photovoltaics. And the third impact is that there is something else, and probably we have the chance to talk about that a little bit later. All these things are great, and it's nice that we are on the right track, but we will still need another very important issue, which concerns about recyclability and circular economy. Mm-hmm. And this is probably one of the missing points right now. We all agree that photovoltaics is green, photovoltaics is nice, photovoltaics is appealing, but we can still make it greener, more appealing, and more attractive in many, many respects. And this issue of circularity and recycling is probably one of the big challenges ahead in the coming years.
That's a really interesting answer.
I would definitely sign to that as well. So my expertise is, sustainability, policymakers, etc. When you're looking at the current trends in terms of legislation, everything that you have been saying, circularity, resource efficiency, so how can we best use the resources that we have and get the best output, right? All these topics are really, really high on the agenda of politicians today. And you mentioned, or I think we all know that solar really plays an important role nowadays in the energy mix. So there are huge quantities out there, but solar modules also have a lifetime about 25, 30 years. So we are not talking about a Coca-Cola brand. I'm sorry, a Coke can that you buy it, you consume it, and then you throw it away, and you bring it back into the recycling circle. We're talking here about a product that you install, and then 30 years later, you have to deal with the waste, right? So this is a really, really huge topic, and a little sneak preview. The Commission is working on a revision of the WE directive, which is the waste directive, the waste law, and I guess we will see quite a number of things touching upon these topics.
Great.
Yeah, in that sense, I'm sorry. I just want to emphasize that indeed, in Trina, we are, as you know, dedicating a lot of efforts on this. And actually, I think it was 1 month ago when we manufactured our first fully recycled module. So this can be done. There's a huge amount of work yet to be explored and done, but we have demonstrated that we can use recycled modules to manufacture new ones, no, with the current characteristics.
But I think that many are not aware of how difficult this is, right? You said, we have done a lot of work and really years putting into, how we get to a fully recyclable module. And I think what people don't understand is a PV module is a product that has to sustain, hail and rain, wind, etc., etc. This is built, like I said, for 30 years. And so that brings challenges in terms of decommissioning, recycling, recovering, right? So I think, what Trinasolar achieved here in terms of getting a fully recyclable module, that is a huge, huge, huge innovation breakthrough.
Certainly.
Yes,
Definitely.
because it's the durability, but also once it's obsolete, what can you do with those waste materials? It's a huge question for the future. And I think also you mentioned the performance in extreme conditions. Of course, we all think of solar energy, it's sunny, it's nice. No, not always. And of course, you do need to have that durability there to be able to resist these extreme weather conditions without getting too damaged.
Yeah. Also, I want to emphasize something that David mentioned. You were asking about the main challenges of the technology. I can tell you a challenge that we don't have, which is competitiveness. We used to have, not anymore. I mean, solar energy generation is certainly more competitive than the majority of the world and any oil and gas option. No? So we are there already. What we have to focus now is other challenges is that due to these, solar energy is accessible to all the globe, no?
Yeah.
And then we have to adapt to markets, as Gonzalo was saying before. For instance, I'm thinking about the module. 20 years ago, modules were designed for Germany. I mean, it was a kind of, you mentioned Europe was 80% of the market.
85.
85. Germany was 85% of that, 85. Then Spain came in, okay, higher temperatures, but not so different
Italy,
really.
UK,
in Italy, etc. But the module was, designed for this kind of applications. When you go to Chile, for instance, you need a different product. And in Trina, we learned that with experience and also the hard way. Why? Because when we used the module that we used to manufacture and we exposed it in a place where there's no snow or there's no rain, there's no low temperatures, but there's a higher radiation in the world, we see that certain encapsulation materials of the module suffer a lot because they are receiving many, many more hours per year of sun than the ones that they receive in Spain or Germany. And that helped us to understand that, hey, we should adapt the bill of materials that we use in each product depending on where they're going to be installed. And this is beneficial for the company. It also increases the yield. It decreases the operation and maintenance, etc. So now, we are active in more than 100 countries, so we have modules everywhere. And we do have different specifications depending on the local conditions. So that's something that we are also evolving all the time.
And I think the beauty of the solar is can be installed everywhere, regardless the size. So you can install 1 megawatt plant, or as we did in Middle East, 1 gigawatt, which is massive if you believe, or you think about what is 1 giga. 1 giga is a nuclear power plant. So just to understand. And even myself, I have 14 panels on the roof of my house. So I'm really proud about that. So solar is really for everyone.
Yes.
And
the real game changer now is solar and storage, right?
And
that is really changing how we think about electricity generation. And you mentioned before, that solar, well, first of all, is a very affordable energy source nowadays. And just to put that a little bit into perspective, when we had the energy crisis, so, starting autumn 21, I would say, solar played actually a really crucial role in bringing the prices down again. I think we would have had significant bigger challenges if we hadn't had the very fast deployment of solar panels.
Yes, and I think once you get to the stage of being able to guarantee operational reliability in diverse environments, then it's a real game changer. And it means it suddenly can step in as being a major energy source, a reliable energy source, and something that the grid is just relying on for its daily use. Well, it's not just about solar power in terms of the developments of the technology, and it's all great theoretically, but we also need to consider the cost effectiveness. Because, of course, now it is becoming a commodity that's becoming widely used. We need to really start considering cost effectiveness and the scalability of energy storage. Can you add anything on this?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned before, we are in a different evolution stage in storage than in pure solar energy. I do agree with Alina that I think in the close future it will be difficult to sell a PV module without some kind of storage application attached to it. Why? Because the fact that we have been able to make this technology so accessible to everybody is having certain effects. We installed 600 gigawatt per year globally instead of 6, and this has an effect on the electrical grids, curtailment, instability, and also, yes, we talk about this super efficient source of energy generation, but it only works 8-10 hours per day. So this is where storage kicks in, and it's clear that seems the right solution in the short term, at least short and near term, I would say. However, the massive evolution of this technology is just starting, I would say. So I think there's still a big space to witness technology improvements in this sense, and also cost reduction. Storage was not an option for economical reasons only 2 years ago in the majority of the markets. In the last 2 years, well, the costs have decreased significantly, and we see that similar to what happened with solar energy, it's being deployed much more commonly in so many different markets. And this trend seems to be unstoppable now. So this would guarantee that the storage market will grow as quickly as the solar one, hopefully. And then, similarly to what happened with the modules, it would be something accessible to everybody. So it looks promising in terms of competitiveness and energy independency.
Now, Alina mentioned recycling before. Can we move on to sustainability, or was there something else you wanted to mention?
No, I just you said there's a lot of focus on storage right now, and like again, my stakeholders are policymakers, right? And since the new commission is now being formed, what I can tell a little bit from the policymaker side is they absolutely recognize the relevance of storage. I mean, when you're looking at all their plans for the next 5 years of the EU Commission, policy planning, they all mention storage. It's like, the second biggest word after electricity and energy per se, right? So I think there is a need and a huge market opportunity, but also the necessity, right?
Yeah, the best example to prove that is that without policy, the business has started. Without the policy, having in my mind the Chile market. Chile is a very peculiar market, very peculiar country, as you know, is very long, very thin, 50 kilometers by 5,000 kilometers. They have all the solar energy in the north, all the wind energy in the south, and the consumption in the center. So the grid is completely constrained. So since 3 years ago, the economics of installing storage already pay off. And the Chilean market is well aware of their challenges. They are developing their policies, but they are politicians, so it takes time and time and time. The market didn't wait. They are installing 6 to 8 gigawatt hour per year in a relatively small market. So,
but the biggest challenge still is, or the biggest bottleneck is indeed the grid development, right? Grids today, grid connection, grid development, grid construction, that is the real issue to the green energy transition. We as a company, we have done our job, I would say. We have the capacity, we have the technology, we have the innovation breakthrough. What we need to have the grid now taking us to the next level.
Yes, without the infrastructure there, then it's impossible.
Absolutely.
And going back to sustainability, how do you think sustainability is being integrated into new solar energy projects and the technologies, and what do you think are going to be the long-term benefits with this?
I think it's hard to foresee benefits right now coming from recycling. I think we are in a phase of learning how to do it in an effective manner. And obviously, the whole story will be driven by cost effectiveness. That's clear. But I think we still are not at that level. So we need first to know how to. We need to learn how to dismantle a solar panel effectively.
Yes.
How to take profit of recyclable materials and to bring these materials back in the value chain of a technology, and reuse them for making new products. So all this has to be driven by cost effectiveness, as I just said, but we still lack knowledge of how to do this efficiently. And this is one of the great opportunities, but also big challenges ahead in the short term. So in the next few years, I'm pretty convinced that we will see convincing proposals how to take over this recycling of solar modules, and how to reuse and re-inject these components back in the value chain.
To assess the life cycle, and then really sort of consider an economic design and ways in which this can move forward, evolve.
That's a very good point. One of the issues which is probably catching attention of many playmakers is how to fabricate things that are actually recyclable. This is obviously nothing exclusive of photovoltaics. I think it applies to every single commercial product which you might think of. But in the case of photovoltaics, this is particularly interesting. As Alina said, the typical lifetime of a solar module spans over 30 years. So if you buy a solar module, the manufacturer is giving you a warranty for 25, 30 years. There are not that many commercial products with such a long warranty compromise.
No.
And that means that the modules are very well fabricated, they can withstand extreme conditions, and they are obviously hard to dismantle. So this scenario is a little bit, I would say, schizophrenic, in the sense that we are aiming at fabricating something robust that takes years to degrade, and at the same time we're asking ourselves, well, how can we actually degrade these things once they are cannot be used anymore, and bring them back to the starting of the value chain.
And there is maybe just one additional complexity level to add, and that it's safety, right? Durability is one aspect, but you also need to produce a safe product, right? And that always is a little bit in contradiction with recyclability. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's not an easy task, to be frank.
And you see, there are many, let's say, open paths, not exclusively related with the technology itself of the device, but also, let's say, invading other fields, security. But just staying in the technology, I think we will also see changes in the manufacturing of the modules.
Exactly, because of course sustainability is not just about the recycling procedure, but actually the process of the manufacture.
Right. I think
that needs to be brought into line with values, and with something which is sustainable in the future.
Exactly.
Using raw materials which, for example, are always going to be available and aren't damaging the planet, and creating things which can be broken down, but yet at the same time are really durable.
Yes.
And the carbon footprint. I think that's, we are talking about solar. We obviously have to talk about the climate crisis. And so the carbon footprint is a very important topic.
Yes, because of course, if you're offsetting the fact that we're not using dirty fuel with the fact that you're using an awful lot of polluting materials to actually make and then recycle the solar panels themselves, then that's a bit of a contradiction in terms. So of course, it needs to be sustainable in every sense of the word. Its design, in the manufacture, in the recycling, and as durable as possible, so that once it's actually up and running, then that remains.
Mm-hmm.
But to just give you a little bit of a perspective of what we at Trinasolar are doing. Mm-hmm. So one of our production facilities in China, in that case, was the first one to receive actually a zero carbon certificate. What does it mean? It means that the emissions that we are generating during production, as well as administration, operation, etc., they are lower, or they are lower than the energy savings that we are having through things such as buying green electricity, having PPAs, so developing projects that are feeding into the energy that we are using, solar rooftop installations on our facilities and these kind of things. But it's a massive effort. It's a huge investment as well, right? And you obviously, you want to. It's something that is in our company DNA, but it is also something that the market is asking, right? The market is clearly asking, what is the carbon footprint of your product, right? And so we are doing so many different things. I'm very proud, and I think my colleagues here can say the same, that we have done this achievement. We are not yet there where we want to be, so there's still a long way to go, but it's massive.
Getting there.
Yeah.
Now, David, earlier you mentioned photovoltaics. Could you tell me a little bit more about the advances in bifacial modules and agri-photovoltaics?
My heart beats every time I hear about bifacial solar cells, and the reason for that is that the first commercial product of bifacial modules use a technology developed at the Institute of Solar Energy in Madrid, in the place I'm working at the moment. That was one of the first technological developments. It was probably too early. I'm talking about the late 80s, last century. But it was clearly a vision of how the technology should evolve to. And bifacial is nowadays the standard. I think about 60% of installations or even more are using bifacial modules, right, Álvaro? Yeah. So it has become the standard for new installations. So bifacials are clearly a great advancement in the sense that there was a time in which the technology was dealing with efficiency, increasing efficiency. The costs were still high, but once the costs are already so low, the point is to squeeze the resource as much as possible. So every single fraction of a percentage point you can gain in output power from your product is actually making the difference. And in that respect, bifacials are ideal. So every single photon you can catch up from your backside of your module is very welcome for your electricity generation. In terms of combining bifacial modules with agri-photovoltaics, I think that's a perfect combination. I think that's basically the kind of product needed for combining both uses of land. So you can simultaneously generate richness, not only by generating energy, but also by generating crops and products. And this can be done simultaneously in the same place at the same time. There have been some controversies regarding the use of land and the, let's say, not perfect combination of both land uses. Okay, there have been some arguments, there have been even some movies and some films reporting about this issue. I think this is probably conjunctural to some extent. I think there might be obviously specific places, specific moments in which the two activities might run into conflict. But on a larger scale, I don't see any actual issue in that respect. I think there is plenty of room for deploying photovoltaics at places where there is no possibility of conflict with any other use of land and the space to occupy. And when there is such a simultaneity in both activities, I think there are many ways of combining the two things in a clever and a smart way, avoiding, let's say, having to choose between one thing or the other.
So
I think.
Sorry.
No, I think there was even a recent report that was actually demonstrating that the biodiversity could even increase with photovoltaics, simply because you have a very protected habitat for animals and plants, right? Which normally you would not have because you would have monocultures and these kind of things. So it's actually an interesting aspect that you have technology and biodiversity working hand in hand.
There's a very concrete issue with the humidity of the ground, which is very well preserved when you have certain shading. Obviously, not complete shading.
Some kind of greenhouse effect.
Exactly. So you can, let's say, there's potential benefits for both kind of activities if combined in a smart way. Obviously.
And Alina, maybe you are much more aware than me, but it depends on the country we are. So it means we have as Europeans some different countries that they are just moving forward. So we have France, we have Germany, and especially in Italy, there is it's been really a big issue because the policy in the way the permitting was being made has changed drastically, and now it's not allowed to develop any utility PV plant unless you are using agricultural and you are both using photovoltaic and cultivating crops or animals or whatever. So this is not the future. This is really this is happening, and of course we are sensible to this fact, and yeah, we have our own product for structures, for Tracker 2 Portrait, where we can reach up to, if I'm not wrong, 2.5 meters high. So you can cultivate, but you can keep your photovoltaic activity. So we are fulfilling the Italian government and the one that many countries will come. I'm completely sure this is going to be the future.
Yeah.
And in some cases, the present.
Now, we touched on the subject of the commitment to green manufacturing. Could you also tell me, Alina, a little bit more about supply chain transparency?
A huge topic, and I would say of the past 5 years or so, that really has increased traction. Now, one thing I have to say, sustainability. It's, first of all, it's a very broad field. And secondly, it's one of these things that is constantly evolving. When we at Trinasolar did, our first sustainability reports, our first certification audits against, different sustainability aspects, that was, I think, in 2014 already, 2013-14. Back then, it was topics such as, which kind of materials do you use, the efficiency, these kind of things, right? Carbon to a certain extent as well, recyclability. Today, it's a lot about traceability of materials. And not just for solar modules, actually also for other products, especially for batteries, for example. Sorry to bother you with these technological terms now, but the batteries regulation is a little bit the blueprint legislation for sustainability, and especially for traceability. So they have set, a new way of approaching product design, of approaching your sustainability programs, of approaching your supply chains. And I think that makes sense, right? We live in a very global world. In Europe, we may have our standards. In other regions, you may have very different standards, right? And you just want to understand a little bit, where's your material coming from, how has it been mined, processed, refined, etc. And yes, obviously also, how is it being treated at the end of life? So it is a very important topic. And to be frank, as a company, it's a very difficult topic as well. Just to explain that a little bit in detail, when we, for example, are running traceability protocols, especially now I'm talking here about solar modules, these are hundreds of pages of data sets. So, that's a booklet that you can receive if you want to know where your solar module came from, how it was produced, which materials it used, etc., etc. So that really is a lot of effort for us, but I think it is something that the market is simply, looking for, and obviously we are happy to oblige with that.
Excellent. And could you tell me a little bit more about the innovation that's happening in terms of sustainable product design?
Yes. I mean, innovation, probably you guys are better placed to talk about, the real innovation. What I can speak about is the innovation that is being triggered by legislation. And there is one thing coming up on the horizon in the EU bubble, and that is eco-design. Eco-design law is going to regulate how we are designing, producing, using, and treating products at the end of life, including, for example, batteries and solar modules. And I think one of the big topics there will really be circularity. How can you, make that square a round circle again of, safety, durability, and circularity? But also things such as, the carbon footprint, we already talked about that, but also repairability. So there's a lot about, a lot of talk of the right to repair things, the right to reuse things. Does it always make sense? Maybe there are others who are better placed to answer that question. I'm not sure. But these are definitely things that we need to consider as we are moving forward.
And I imagine that you need to do this in close collaboration with governments.
Absolutely. Governments, civil society, obviously, stakeholders such as university, academia, very, very important. And then we just have really great brains within Trinasolar who are, they can explain things much better than I can.
Well, I think it's very important to establish global standards which will enable us to move forward in a clean way.
Absolutely. The topic of standardization is extremely important when you're talking about, of course, product technical standardization. You mentioned before that, we are designing products for different markets. That makes sense, right? But you also have to make sure that, when you're plugging in a solar module, it's actually working with the grid and the connections that you have there, for example. But then you also have standardization in terms of the carbon footprint methodology, right? How do you calculate your carbon footprint? There are very different schools of how to approach that. And for a global world, for a global product, for a global crisis such as climate, you also should be thinking of global standardization.
Yes. And this brings me to my last question. We're almost out of time. But before we come to a close, I'd like to talk a little bit about the future trends and emerging technologies. Which future trends and emerging technologies in solar energy are likely to have the most significant impact on the industry? And how should stakeholders prepare for this?
If we talk about module, as mentioned before, I think we will try to extract every single VAT that we can from the product that is already costly optimized. What we see is that the module applications will be extended. No, we see, for instance, modules are starting to be installed vertically in facades or in balconies. So we need to adapt to that, maybe with lighter modules, even flexible modules. This is something that we are working on, and it's a technology that already existed, applying different cell technology, but that was not very efficient. No? So we're trying to figure out how we could achieve the efficiencies that we have today in photovoltaics with that kind of peculiar weights and shapes that could help to install solar virtually everywhere. No? On a cell level, I think, hey, David, please, let us know. David.
There are rumors about...
There are rumors.
No, the cell is actually living an extraordinary career. It's amazing if you look at the efficiency charts at module level, not just a small cell laboratory scale device, but at module level, the technology has witnessed an increase in efficiency, a sustained increase in efficiency of about half a percentage point per year over nearly 15 to 17 years in a row. So it has been really amazing how the optimization of all the technological processes of fabrication of a module have really fine-tuned their steps and have achieved this sustained increase in efficiency. The point is that the current technology massively used in the market today is based on silicon, crystalline silicon substrates. And we already know what is the maximum theoretical efficiency limit of this technology. The good news is that we are very close to it, but this is also a kind of matter of concern because there is not much more room to squeeze silicon just to bring a little bit of power, additional power out of it. The technology roadmap has already identified potential candidates for that, and this is no novelty. So people have been working very hard in the last decade on ways to, let's say, settle down the manufacturability of beyond single junction silicon-based devices. Mm-hmm. And the way to go, I think all technicians agree on that, is by making use of so-called multi-junction solar cells, particularly tandems. So basically piling up two solar cells, one on top of each other.
Yes, I was hoping that you would tell me about this. This is the perovskite silicon.
Sorry, I anticipated.
Solar cells.
I anticipated myself to the question. Yes, and along that line, that research line, the combination of perovskites and silicon is by far the most appealing one, because it combines a number of advantages that other technologies cannot surpass. Basically, it consists of keeping all the knowledge and the manufacturability of silicon-based solar cells. The market is based on that at the moment. And a kind of novel material, this perovskite, which has a number of advantages, particularly interesting for processing. So processing perovskite solar cells is relatively easy, is relatively cheap. And the combination of two winners makes a very strong bet for this type of architectures, perovskites on silicon. And the idea is that each part of the device will take profit of part of the sunlight spectrum in a more effective way than each of these devices alone. And the overall combination gives a significant jump in efficiency. So basically, you can imagine having the same area of your solar module, but working with higher efficiencies and giving you higher output powers.
Yes.
And that's the identified roadmap for the technology in the coming years. So that's also one aspect regarding technology which is very interesting at the moment, because we will see also significant changes in the manufacturability of these devices.
And of course, being on the cutting edge of development, could you tell me a little bit about the advanced predictive maintenance systems which are using AI and the Internet of Things?
I'm not too much into this field, so probably my colleagues Álvaro and perhaps Gonzalo can add some more details than me. But there is one thing, at least, that for me is very clear. So the massive deployment of photovoltaics means huge amount of data. Mm-hmm. And this is a very good thing. I mean, just to start with, you need data to do statistics. So if you want to have accurate statistical models, you need plenty of data and a good significant population just to extract conclusions. And I think IoTs and related technologies, obviously artificial intelligence, machine learning, all these novel technologies are right now being tested and being developed for obviously a variety of applications, but particularly to how to understand and how to advance in the, for instance, operation and condition of PV plants. And this will bring another level of complexity, obviously, to the technology. So photovoltaics will be not just about solar cells, inverters, and transformers, and the point of grid connection, but also about data management and machine learning and all these kind of IT technologies.
So moving on, I'd like to talk finally a little bit about the flexible and lightweight solar panels, which is being developed at the moment. And I think this is a question for you too.
Yeah, no, that is related to what I mentioned before. No? We're trying to evolve the product so that it can be deployed in these different applications that we are seeing today. As the module costs decrease so aggressively, I mean, today I think it's cheaper to buy a PV module than a window. So
Much cheaper.
if you could install a PV module in your house and you don't have high aesthetic criteria, so or aspirations, actually that could produce energy for you. No, I mean we're trying to advance our products so that they can be installed or deployed in different applications. And in order to achieve that, you need them to be lighter, you need them to be flexible, you need them to be something different to that rectangular big thing with the size of a door. That is very useful, but there's not much you can do with it. No? So now it's our turn to convince others, such as architects and these kind of people that, they are okay with the technology and they like its benefits, but they would not use it because they don't and find the right way to integrate it in their buildings or their spaces.
Gonzalo, can you tell me about robotic installation systems?
Yeah, of course. So one thing that I mean, the manufacturers, they forget is that maybe they think so much in product cost, but when it comes to a photovoltaic application, a photovoltaic plant is not just the cost as being a manufacturer. So let's say a battery, a module, or an structure. This is about how to install it. So we have a dedicated department in China that has developed an own machinery, and this is not the future. We are talking about the present, and they have been already installed a couple of plants, okay, just in a way that they use the machinery, so you can place the piles, you can place the torque tubes, you can even place the purlins and the PV modules. So in this sense, it's not just about to be quicker. It means to save money and to decrease the capex of the cost of the installation. It's about safety of the people. You can imagine that maybe just taking a pile or a tube of a tracker or fixed installation or a fixed structure, so the weight could be 100 kilo. So it means it helps the people. Of course, you need less manpower, and we are driving, again, lower the cost of the energy, the levelized cost of the energy. So this is something that we are doing in China, and we will be making some tests in Spain, actually, so really soon. This is something that we are really proud of.
And another innovation, there are also hybrid storage systems which combine the thermal and the electrical storage. Is that right?
Yeah, well, that's an option. To be frank, there are in the storage technology, I think lithium ion is what is dominating today, but the variety of options is very big still. Maybe because the industry has not completely focused on one specific technology as has happened for solar panels. That is silicon substrate, and that's it today. In the future, probably not. On the storage side, there are different possibilities, and probably a combination of them will bring additional benefits. So combining thermal and electrical storage is something that is being considered. In this case, I would emphasize what we're seeing as the most trendy application, complete different technology, but that is in the mouth of everybody in the sector, which is green hydrogen. This is something that could really bring a new scenario for renewable energies, because you don't need the grid. You can implement that kind of technology in areas where the wind resource is fantastic or the solar resource is great, but there's no real consumption centers close, which somehow disable to make big investments there in the past. But I think the big challenge is to transport this very small molecule of hydrogen. But we do see a very consistent growth of that kind of storage application, green hydrogen. Actually, in Trina, we started manufacturing this year electrolyzers. So we started also our first steps. We are starting our first steps on this technology too. And its potential is really huge, as big as battery storage.
I think that's all we've got time for. Thank you so much for joining me. And before we finish, I'd like you to just summarize, if possible, a final message. We've talked about politics, we've talked about innovation, we've talked about sustainability. One final message for our viewers, which really sums up your point of view on some of the things that we've talked about. David.
Okay. Well, I think my message will be we will witness a revolution in terms of energy production, clean energy production in a green manner, with a green technology, with recyclable technology, and with very, very, very efficient technology. And we must remember that we are to meet our targets in terms of photovoltaics deployment. At the moment, there is something a little bit more than 1.5 terawatts of installed capacity, which is huge. It's more or less like 1,600 nuclear plants, as Gonzalo said. But the targets we gave ourselves a number of years ago to meet our objectives regarding climate change require at least one order of magnitude more. So we need to install much more photovoltaics than what we currently have right now.
Excellent. Alina, what would be your parting shot?
I'm going to build on the capacity that we need. And, during COP last year, governments around the world agreed to tripling renewable energy capacity. We are now some weeks ahead of the next COP, so this year's COP. And there we really have to make sure that there are concrete plans in place in order to implement that target. And in order to achieve that, in order to achieve the climate neutrality objective, in order to increase renewables, and in order to really make the green energy transition smooth, we need to have all stakeholders working together. I think that's the real thing.
United.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great message. Gonzalo.
So I'm gonna talk more about the feelings. So I'm with you. I'm totally. So we have to be really, really, really proud that we are taking part of this revolution. That the solar industry is becoming the cheapest energy source. Remembering 6 gigawatts in 2008, 600 in 2024, a bunch more in the future. So we are taking part of this revolution, and we need to be really, really proud of that.
Excellent.
Building on my colleagues' points, I think that the main message is that it's feasible to supply the world's energy necessities with renewable energy exclusively. And it was difficult to believe in these words 20 years ago. Now, from a cost competitiveness point of view, for sure, it's probably the best option. And the technology to cover, let's say, the weakest point of this kind of energy sources, which are mainly the grid integration and their intermittency, well, I don't know how to spell that, but the fact that you cannot choose the energy management, they're being solved with these new applications, such as storage, in different ways and manners. And they are also becoming cost competitive very quickly. So I think we are close to that moment in time in which it will be feasible to fulfill our energy needs with renewable energy exclusively.
Thank you so much,
So
Álvaro.
go solar.
Go!
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to chat with Alvaro, with Gonzalo, with Alina, and with David. Thank you also for watching. This has been our Chat in the Sun. Goodbye for now. It's time for the golden hour, that perfect time of day when the light is just right and the questions are even better. Today we've collected some questions about the future of solar energy from industry professionals at Intersolar Brazil last August. Let's see what our experts have to say in response. So let's go to the first question.
How are government policies and incentives around solar energy changing, and how might they evolve in the future?
That's a great question. Alina?
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. I mean, government policies have a huge role to play in the green energy transition. In the last years, we have seen things such as the Renewable Energy Directive that has set a 45% renewables target for Europe. Things such as the Energy Performance Billing Directive that is obliging, public authorities to install solar modules on their roof. So this is really driving the market, and obviously with it also goes, incentives such as subsidy schemes, for example, in order to make it also affordable for, poorer generations or households that simply can't afford renewable energy.
That's a great answer. And moving on to the next question.
What role will renewable energy play in the global energy transition? And how is solar energy positioned in the transition?
Great question. David, would you like to answer that one?
Okay. Currently, renewables account for nearly 30% of the electricity generation. Is that enough? Well, probably not. We would like renewables to deal with at least 2/3 of the electricity generation globally. And regarding solar energy, photovoltaics accounts for about 1/3 of that 30%. So we're roughly speaking about a little bit less than 10% electricity generation by means of photovoltaics. With the prospects of increasing the installed capacity at least by one order of magnitude in the next decade and a half, this share has to be improved significantly. And I guess we will be talking about a share in the electricity generation close to the 30%, which is nowadays covered by all renewables globally.
Thank you. And we have another question.
What are the biggest challenges facing the solar industry today, and how are they beginning to address it?
Alvaro, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. Actually, I will tell you what is not a challenge, which is cost competitiveness. No, that's not a challenge for solar energy. Solar energy is extremely cost competitive, more than the majority of other conventional energy generation sources. However, I think what solar energy has to focus on now is to make this energy generation source available to as many people as possible to benefit from all the advantages that it has, including cost. And in order to achieve that, we need to overcome certain challenges, in some cases with certain governments that we're not asking for specific policies to promote the deployment of this technology, but at least we would be happy to see countries that don't have any policy against the deployment of the energy. And also in these other governments or other places where the energy is widely deployed, other challenges appear, such as grid stability and energy management. This is a big challenge that is currently being addressed mainly with storage applications that are evolving today and that will facilitate the integration of solar energy in the energy mix of every country.
Great, thank you. And moving on to the next question.
How are the costs of solar technology evolving, and what impact will this have on the widespread adoption?
Gonzalo?
Thank you. For sure, they have been always going down, the cost, and they will be definitely going down. So this is not just about an improvement when it comes to the design. Of course, trackers, one portrait, two portrait, and fixed structure. It's not just about the product, it's about what is related, also the assembly. with robotic machines, just to improve and reduce the man hours to make the process quicker. And also, to make the product, to reduce as much as possible the civil works that they need to be done. So imagine the amount of good lands available for solar deployments are step-by-step less, so they are much more challenging. So we have hilly plots, and by having a tracker or fixed structure that adapts much better without having to make a massive civil work and to make it flat, of course, it contributes to a global capex reduction.
And moving on to the next question.
What are the most promising developments in solar energy integration with other renewable sources, such as wind or hydro?
Alina, I think this one has to be for you.
Well, let's see. I think what is most promising is that politics has understood that we need to have system integration, because, logically and naturally, you would find solar in the south, wind in the north. You would have solar during the day. You would have hydro wind during the night, for example, and only by allowing, for example, cross-border system integration, so integration of the grid, you really can combine all these energy sources and actually ensure that we have a green electricity mix.
Thank you so much for your answer. Thank you to all of our experts. Thank you for joining us. As we reach sunset, let's reflect on everything that we've covered about the future of solar energy. From groundbreaking innovations to the potential for solar power to transform the world, the future is truly bright. It's been an incredible journey, exploring the innovations, possibilities, and the exciting road ahead for solar energy. Thank you for joining us on this first episode of A Chat in the Sun. Remember, the future is solar, and it's shining brighter than ever. Don't forget to follow us on social media, share your thoughts, and join the conversation. Head over to achatinthesun.trinasolar.com for all of the episodes, and stay tuned for what's coming next. Until next time, keep chasing the sunshine. Goodbye.